morning. No restraints on time this evening if you're concerned about that. And so if you feel as though you couldn't quickly share your testimony, don't feel like that at all. We'd like to hear it. One of the things we do customarily do is when we have preachers come and visit us, we normally do like to hear from them about how they were saved, how they came to Christ. People don't just get to where they're at when they're serving the Lord. They start somewhere when they come to Christ. And so we'd like to hear about that, and then we'd just like to hear an update about your ministry and what the Lord's... So if you just share with us how you got saved and then how the Lord's using you currently. If you would have the opportunity, let me introduce a couple fellows to you. This is Brother Frank Donisi, and he's on deputation right now. You're with BIMI, is that correct? And he's going to the Philippines, and is going to be working with the ministry and then eventually church planting in the future.
My dad's church planter over there.
Okay, his dad's church planter. Anyway, I don't want to tell about it. He can tell just a little bit about that. But I went to some seminary classes with Brother Frank when I'd gone back to seminary, and he was in seminary at the same time. And so I know him from there, but he's very close friends with Brother Alex. And if you know Brother Alex, you know that he has good friends. And so Brother Frank comes with good recommendation as well. This is Pastor Jeff Jones, and he's Jeremy's dad. Now, you might have met Jeremy. I was out of town when Jeremy visited last time, but Jeremy has been hired with the Fort Lauderdale Police Department, which is an answer to prayer for a couple of reasons. One, we prayed that the Lord would hire him specifically when we found out he was applying. Second, so that's an answer to prayer there. I'm sure a lot of people were praying about that besides us, but as well as we've been praying, the Lord would really give somebody in our church that would be able to have a ministry with the Fort Lauderdale Police, and so we believe he's an answer to prayer for that reason as well. So he's moved to Fort Lauderdale, and he's part of the Single Guy House, which is a growing force, getting more and more powerful. So they haven't yet taken over the street, but they got a police officer, so there you go. they have their own police. You know, when a school system gets large or whatever, they get their campus police. So the Guy House has the police. Feel free to arrest them when they need it, etc. So they police themselves, and they mean it. Anyway, Brother Jeremy's father's with us this evening, and he's a preacher. The Lord's used him to plant a couple of churches, and has a great love and passion for ministry. And so, fellas, Brother Jones, if you'd share with us, and then Brother Frank, can take the time that you need, and don't feel any constraints.
Thank you, Pastor Price. Appreciate you letting us be here tonight. We certainly enjoy it. Appreciate your hospitality and kindness of your people. And I know you folks prayed. We did have a lot of people praying about that all over the country. People praying about that. And I'll say this: the police department here was very thorough, and y'all take great pride in that. They checked every part of his background and history, and still hired him. And but they checked him out very thoroughly and hired him, and he's excited about it. We're excited about it too, and appreciate your continued prayers for him. And as he starts there and he seeks the Lord's will and trying to find his way through all this, and we're glad we found some of God's people here. I grew up in a home that wasn't really a Christian home. Grew up around a lot of alcohol and things like that. And one day we just moved to a new neighborhood in the town I grew up in, and a man knocked on our door and invited us to church. He was a bus pastor, and he took a 66 passenger bus and drove it through my hometown. Drove us about 10 miles away. And it's the first time I'd ever got any kind of invitation that I know of to go to church. I was going into the 6th grade, and was absolutely excited about it. And we got on that bus the next morning and we rode that bus until I was able to drive myself and go to church. And at the very beginning of that, I made a profession of faith, and really didn't quite understand what I'd done or what was going on, didn't understand the gospel. And one day, sitting in a junior high school class, it dawned on me, the Lord illuminated my mind, I believe, and showed me that I was lost, that if I died, I'd go to hell. And I was very prideful, and I was embarrassed about telling my pastor in the church that I was lost. And I don't encourage people to do this, but I made a deal with the Lord that if he'd let me live, I'd get saved at camp that summer. And I waited till the last night, the last service, I believe the last song, the last verse of the invitation to finally go forward. And it's a camp that I really pushed it, I think, probably with the Lord. But the camp facilities were pretty sparse in that day. We were meeting under a large sycamore tree. And I got up and walked to the front where the pastor was preaching that night, to Pastor John Duty. He gave me to a man out of his church, Jerry Clapp. I found out years later, the man that dealt with me. And they took me out underneath that sycamore tree and led me to Christ that night. And Zacchaeus got saved in the tree. I got saved under the tree. And the Lord has helped me all along the way. Took me to Bible college when my folks were not really super thrilled about that. He met my wife there and got away from the Lord for a little season. And the Lord was very kind. Let me come back to Him and begin to serve Him again. And I was part of a ministry in Indiana, part of a church, for 14 years. 7 of those years as the pastor of that church. If anybody was comfortable, I was comfortable. I had a very comfortable situation. Church took very good care of me. I had just a great life there. And the Lord began to burden my heart about church planting. And what I thought I was going to do, I thought I was going to help somebody church plant. The Lord had different ideas, and He led us into church planting. And for the last 5 years, my wife and I, and both our boys have been involved in planting churches. This is the second church that we've planted. The first one was in a town called North Vernon, Indiana. We started the Harvest Baptist Church, and God brought a great man to come in and follow us there, and they're going forward, having the best days they've ever had. And then the Lord led us to, of all places, down to the Bible Belt. It led us to the Auburn, Alabama area. And I thought, Lord, you surely don't need churches in Alabama. And I began to check, and through some different influences, we saw a need there. And I talked to 2 pastors in that general area, and they said, sure, come. We need all the help we can get. Auburn's a college town, of course, 50,000 people. The town that I'm actually in is 25,000, the kind of a sister city, over 75,000 people in that city. And the Lord led us to start the Heritage Baptist Church there. And I like to say that we're old-fashioned. And old-fashioned doesn't mean used up or tired or worn out. Old-fashioned is, I don't know if you ever had old-fashioned homemade ice cream. That's pretty good stuff, isn't it? And that's kind of what we believe that the gospel is, and what the Lord has given us in His book. And so we're just trying to lead people to the Lord the old-fashioned way, and trying to reach people, door knocking and preaching Bible messages. And just very recently, we told the church that we're getting ready to move on and turn the church over to another person, and we'd like to go plant one more church, and Lord willing, we're going to be able to do that here in the next few months. And so you pray for the church that we started there in the Auburn area. Tonight they're meeting to decide about a man that is going to come in and behind me, I hope. And I've told them again and again that I believe with all my heart that the best days of that church are still ahead. And I think you'd probably like to think that here tonight, that the best days, you've had good days, but the best days, what God's really going to do is still ahead. And I don't know how people get up if they don't believe that kind of thing. And I've got to believe that. I believe the greatest years of my ministry are ahead of me. And I'm looking forward to seeing what God will do. And I'm praying for you. I like the spirit here. I like what you're doing. And just keep on going forward. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful privilege to be here tonight. My name is Frank Denisi, a missionary in the Philippines.